Hey, what's going on guys? I'm Primal Liquid and this is my Around Reborn Syrcus Tower raid guide. For those of you who don't know, Syrcus or Syrcus Tower is the second stage of the Crystal Tower, and in this video I'm basically just going to highlight the key points and things you need to know about the 4 bosses. So let's get started, shall we? Right, first boss we have is Scylla, and now straight away you'll notice the 3 beams of lightning. Now those are very important if you want to actually survive ultimate. Now basically the first stage of the fight you have purple orbs, blue orbs and red orbs. Now these will randomly spawn and they'll be tethered to any individual. I think 3 spawn at a time. I'm not entirely sure on the exact number though, but there can be like quite a lot more. Okay, so purple orbs, whoever gets tethered to a purple orb needs to go and stand in their party's lightning beam. Now what you need to do is, once you've got the purple orb, just go and stand in the lightning beam, and that'll basically give it a charge. So each team needs to do that 3 times in their own lightning stream. Now at the bottom of the lightning stream you'll notice there'll be like a colour pattern on the bottom, and each colour will light up for each charge. If there's 3 colours, then that means yours is done, and move on to the next until all 3 are done. Now the reason you need to do that is so you can put up a shield later on, but I'll talk more about that when I get to it. Now the second orb is a blue orb. Now what the blue orb does is it'll slowly home in on the person it's tethered to, and it will freeze them in place and cast a debuff on them. It's similar to bleed. So healers can basically just cast regain on a frozen person and they'll pretty much be fine until they either thaw out or until somebody thaws them out themselves. Now what I suggest doing is, if you get a blue orb tethered to you, go back to your team's main platform, because then it's much easier for people to find you and defrost you later on. Okay, so moving on to the red orbs. Now these red orbs are very similar to the blue orbs, but the only difference is they don't freeze people, they thaw them out. Now if it actually hits you, it will do AoE damage to everyone in range, so try not to let it hit you. But in order to thaw people out, what you need to do is you need to drag the tether through somebody who's frozen. And that's why I suggest people who have a blue orb to go and stand on their platform. That way as soon as somebody gets a red orb, they can just drag the tether through the platforms and unfreeze everybody. Now it's a little difficult to explain like in while watching the video, but once you actually try it once, even if you get a wipe the first time, it only needs 1 try to fully grasp what to do. So I'll move on now. Basically, once all 3 charges are done on each 3 of the lightning streams, and once the boss gets to around 50% health, she'll cast an attack called Daybreak. Now this is very similar to the end boss of Crystal Tower 1. What you need to do is you need at least 4 people from every party to go and stand in the platforms for your party. I mean, we ended up marking ours in here. And like I said, it needs 4 per party. Anything less and the shield won't raise and you'll just get a complete wipe. Now, once the shield's up, you'll have some of the Oceanus, or snakes as I just call them, spawn in. Those should be dealt with while the shield's still up. I mean, once Daybreak goes off, you can come off the shield and you'll be perfectly fine. Okay, so once the snakes are dead, then you basically just repeat the process of dragging the lightning orbs to the lightning stream while DPSing the boss down. The Staff of Aldenings can basically just be left alive. They do a bit of damage if you get hit, but the AoE can be avoided quite easily. So we basically just left them and focused on DPSing the boss down. And the last thing of note to mention about this boss is she casts an attack called Ancient Flare. Now this will do around 4,000 damage to the entire raid. Now there is one way to, I'm not going to say avoid it, but pretty much negate it. Basically whenever you thaw people out, they drop, well they don't drop, but they create like a pool of water on the ground. Now when she's casting Ancient Flare, you have to find a pool of water and stand in it, because that basically shoots your fire resistance right up, and it turns a 4k damage attack down to about 300 points. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this boss, guys. So let's move on to the next one, shall we? Okay, so next up we have the Giant Monk, otherwise known as Glacia Labelis, I think. I don't know, it's something like that. You know, I'm not going to try and pronounce it again. But basically, this fight really only has two mechanics of note. And the first one is the Clockwork Rite ads. Now, they'll basically spawn in after you've DPS'd the boss a little bit, and they'll have like a small circle around them. Now, what you need to do is you need to DPS them down as quick as you can, because what they actually do is they charge his ultimate up, and at 100% it's a wipe. Now, I'm not sure if it's a wipe at a lower percent, because we never really went above 40% when we beat him. So, basically, you need to DPS them down. If they are connected to him via a tether, then you need to stand in the circle with it. Now, only one person needs to stand in the circle, because what that does is it basically takes the tether off of the boss and connects it to you instead. It does give you a small debuff, and it does paralyze you, but it's much better one person being paralyzed than the boss's ult being charged. Now, quite a few of them will spawn. I think somewhere in the range of 10 to 15 will spawn, and they will occasionally teleport around if you don't kill them quick enough. But they do die quite quickly, especially considering it's a 24-man raid. Now, once they're all dead, the boss will use his ultimate attack, and if you kill them quick enough, then it won't really damage too much. What we did is we all moved back to our starting positions, basically just so the healers could Medica and AoE heal a lot easier. After that, we just went back to DPS in the boss. And then what you need to do is the second set of ads that spawn in are called Clockwork Squares. Now, on the area, there's 3 jump pads. And basically, when these Clockwork Squares spawn in, there'll be a contraption on top of the jump pads. And what you need to do is lure the Clockwork Squares in between 2 of those contraptions. You'll know they're in the right place when a tether comes off of them and connects to 2 of them. So that's one ad in between 2 contraptions with a tether going to each contraption. Once they're there, you have to DPS them down. Now, each group needs to do their own ad, but in this stage the boss does not need tanking, so the main tank can get an ad as well. Now, once all 3 ads are killed in their tethered positions, the contraptions will basically power up the jump pads. As soon as those jump pads are powered up, jump off. Whoever's still on that middle platform will die, because it's a guaranteed 100% ultimate. Now, once you've jumped over across the platforms, there are a lot of spanner routes. There's one on each platform, and everybody needs to work the way around, killing them all. Now, it's best if you don't go off on your own, because without a healer, if you're just a DPS, then chances are you may actually die, because each hit they do does around 1000 damage. So it's best to just do it as a group. You know, you don't have to do it super fast or anything like that. Now, once they're all dead, the weird red stuff in the middle disappears. Once that's gone, you're all safe to jump back across and carry on DPSing the boss down. Now, once the second set of ads have been done and his second ultimate's been off, the fight is pretty much the exact same as before. There's no new mechanics or anything like that, no new attacks. The only difference is he attacks more often and he does more attacks. So for example, the AoEs he puts on the ground, those like black circles, he does more of them. So instead of doing like 2 or 3, he does like 4 and 5 and so on. And there's also one more disc on the ground that you need to avoid, because those discs, they can do quite a bit of damage if you're slow and moving out of the way, because unfortunately the targeting on them is not that good. So even if you're like quite a ways from it, it can still damage you, so be extra careful of them. Now, Some groups have basically said that they've killed him only jumping once. Personally, I don't know if it's true, but I do know the 2 times I've beat him, we've had to jump twice. So, with it being the exact same fight, after a second ulti, you'll have the clockwork rights again, which you basically just need to DPS down. And then, once they're dead, you move back to DPS in the boss. And then, after them, you get the clockwork squares, which again, you need to move it in position, DPS down, and jump off to the outer platforms. And that's pretty much all for this boss, guys. It's pretty much just a DPS race, really. But yeah, let's move on to the third boss, shall we? Okay, so boss number 3 is Amon, or the Kefka wannabe. Now, this boss it's pretty much a race, really. Ads will be constantly spawning in, and they always need to be focused down. Now, there are a few little things about the ads, which I'm going to get into now. So, when the slimes spawn in, they must be focused down immediately. Do not let them get to the boss. Otherwise, the boss will hit you with debuffs or extra damage. Now, there are 3 different slimes that will spawn in a row. Now, once they're dead, it moves on to a monster called Cum Cum. Now, when those monsters spawn, somebody will have an orb tethered to them. Now, the person with that orb tethered to them must drag the orb into the Cum Cum. Now, the reason for that is basically it makes the Cum Cum mini, similar to the Gilgamesh fight. Now, without that, the Cum Cums do far too much damage, and I'll put it one way. This is our second attempt at fighting that you're watching right now. The first attempt, a lone Cum Cum pretty much wrecked us all. So that's why you need to put mini on them. If you don't put mini on them, then you've got to DPS them down as fast as you can. But again, still focus on the slimes if they're out. Now, the other ad is, well, we just call them snakes. But there's a mechanic very similar to the Gilgamesh fight where people will be turned into toads. Now, obviously, you have to avoid the snakes because if they get you, it's a one-hit KO. Now, the snakes can be DPS down quite fast, and I'm not going to say they're a top priority, but you still should focus them down if they're out. Now, only attack the boss when all ads are dead. Once all ads are dead, you can focus on the boss as much as you want, but as soon as ads spawn in, then ignore the boss, kill the ads, and go back to the boss. Now, there's not really much in terms of attacks. It's basically, he just has some AoEs that are very, very easy to avoid. From there, there's a ice mechanic. Now, from CT1, much like the King Behemoth, where the meteors drop down, Amon basically turns 3 people into ice. Now, what happens there is the people who get turned into ice must try and move back to a position relatively easy for their party to get behind, because when he uses an attack called Curtain Call, that's a complete wipe if you are not standing behind the ice. That's the only way to survive that attack. Don't stand in the ice, otherwise you'll still die. You have to make sure you are outside the ice but behind it. Now, another little thing about the boss is sometimes you'll notice that you get a debuff. Now, I'm not entirely 100% sure how you get it or what gives it you, but basically it lasts for around 30 seconds and you basically keep exploding. Now, the explosions do no damage to you, but they do quite a bit of damage in an AoE around you. Now, there's not really any notification of you getting it, so always pay attention to what debuffs you've currently got. If you get that bomb debuff, move away from everyone. Even if it means you're not doing anything, you're just sitting in a corner. Because that can wipe a party, especially when you're all DPSing the boss down, because the AoE is quite large and it does quite a bit of damage. But other than that, it's basically just like an easy fight, you know, just focus down the ads, hide behind the ice for his Curtain Call, and only DPS the boss when all the ads are dead. And that's pretty much this fight in a nutshell, guys. I can't really help much more than that. But right, let's move on to the final boss, shall we? Okay, and finally we are at the last boss, the good old Emperor. Now, first of all, I just want to say sorry guys, there is one mechanic that I don't actually have footage of due to a mistake on my part with my recording. Luckily enough, it's not exactly very important to show you because I can very easily explain the entire mechanic. Everything else I do have footage for. Once again, I am sorry. So, let's start off. First of all, the footage I am missing is about the meteor mechanic. Now, what that basically is the boss will move from the middle of the area and he will teleport up onto his throne. Then what happens is the first time it's used, there are 3 devices on the outer edge of the like bit where you're fighting. Now, those 3 need to be DPS down ASAP. Each party should do their own, and once all 3 of those are dead, all 3 parties need to focus the one in the very center. Now, once again, that's DPS the 3 devices on the outer edges of the ring first, then do the big one in the middle. Now, it's not really too hard, it's just a pretty much straight up DPS race. So I suggest once the healers have got everyone healed, they join in as well. Now, the second time it's used, there are a few more on the outer edges, but they take less damage to kill. So it's not really a big problem. But again, like, always focus on the outer ones first and then the middle one first. Now, I will mention, I don't know if it's a glitch or not, but we experienced a problem during the second set where we destroyed all the outer ones. The middle one we were actually slow in destroying and the meteor hit the ground, but it didn't damage anyone. So I don't know whether we destroyed it just as it hit, or if it's some kind of glitch, but don't take that as, you know, just leave it, you know, just wait and so on. Always DPS it down. Now, the next mechanic is yellow rings that spawn around the platform. Now, what those are is basically one person needs to stand in each ring. Now, more than one person can stand in them, but you have to make sure there's at least one person in every single ring on the platform. Otherwise, you're going to wipe, basically. That's pretty much all I can say for that. He does use it around 3 or 4 times, and each time he uses it, there are more rings. At one point, the last time he used it, I think it was, we only had 2 or 3 people that didn't need to actually be in a ring. So that's pretty much just how it goes. Now, moving on to the last little bit. The last mechanic is basically one person from each party will have like a symbol above them. It's like a little black orb, and what that means is the boss is basically about to use his ultimate. Now, each person has to go to a place that's easy for their party to get to. We went back to our starting positions, and then everyone from the party has to stack on them, because what it does do a little bit of damage to you, yes, but it gets you off the ground, which is how you avoid this boss's ultimate. Now, once the boss is done his ultimate, you can just go back to DPS in the fight, and that's pretty much all there is to this fight, guys. There's no ads to kill apart from those little meteor summons that I mentioned at the start. But yeah, if you've made it this far, guys, then all that's left to say is congratulations on beating Syrcus Tower, the 2nd floor of the Crystal Tower. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope it helped. If it did, then leave a like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you guys for Crystal Tower Floor 3. And peace out.